morning and welcome. It's Bravo 22 Company Live, brought to you by the Drive Project, the Royal British Legion, and YouTube. Here we are live once again. I'm Matt Wightman. If you've not met me before, I've been with Bravo for 5 years maybe now, something like that. Got involved in a lot of projects, mainly drama. And today we're very privileged to have with us the fabulous artist and printmaker, Gilly Gretton, also known as her artistic name, Gilly Hatch. You can find her on gillyhatch.com. If you get interested and look at some of the other work that she's done, it really is fantastic and I can thoroughly recommend it. Today we're going to be hosted by the equally fantastic and lovely Al Johnson. But remember, this is an interactive session, so please get involved, ask as many questions as you like, and we will get through them as fast as we can, or as many as we can. And if they don't get answered, I do apologise, but we'll get back to you later, as they say. So remember, it's interactive. Please feel free to press the like button, share, so that people can watch it if they've not been fortunate to see us all live here. And we'll get through as much as we can, and it's going to be fantastic. So straight over to Al. Hi, Al.
Hi, thanks, Matt. That's lovely introduction. I think probably lots of you know me. I'm Director of Art for Bravo 22, and today I'm not going to talk much because I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Gilly, who's a printmaker, as Matt said, and she's going to tell us about her printmaking technique. And it's going to be so lovely. She does beautiful prints and she's going to show us some of those as well. So Gilly, thank you very much for joining us today. It's fantastic to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Tell us about your prints.
Okay, the technique I'm going to talk about today is woodcut, which is one way of reproducing a picture. But it's in particular, I'm going to talk about Japanese woodcut. And along the way, I'll try to explain the difference between European woodcut and Japanese woodcut. But to begin with, what they share is that you have a piece of wood and you cut away the bits of the piece of wood that you don't want to print, and you print the bits that you leave behind. So that's really the essence of what you do. And before I go any further with this, I want to show you 3 of my prints just to give you an idea of what they look like. So can we have image 1, please? Now we're looking at a print that I call Nikot's Night, or you could call it Nikoshiana Night. And they're just some flowers that I like the shape of. The print is made in 4 colors, which means that there are 4 blocks involved. And I might talk a bit more about that later. But it means I have to carve 4 blocks for that. The second one, can we see the second one, please, which is called the sleeve. And this one, like the first, it's quite a big print. It's about 35 centimeters by 30, which for this kind of printmaking is quite big. And this one is 5 blocks. One of them you're not particularly aware of when you look at it, but it's what gives you the yellow lines on the leaves. So there's a yellow block underneath all of the sleeve, and it's a sleeve that's come off a rather beautiful shirt. And the third one, this is called Poor Traffic, and again, same size of print. This is the most recent finished print that I've done just before lockdown, and same size. And again, this one's 4 blocks. Now, sometimes there are more colors. If you count the colors, you may get more, because the way you make this, the colors are transparent and they overlap and they mix that way. So you get extra colors. Okay.
Beautiful prints, very beautiful. I particularly covet one of those prints, the sleeve prints, marvelous. Matt, have we got any shout outs or questions yet?
No questions as yet from outside of the group, but we do have a big shout out here to Dean, Sarah, Graham, and Shirley all with us this morning. A few of the regulars we see quite a bit of, and it's always good to have you here. So please get the questions coming in. It's really interesting stuff.
Thank you. Okay, so Gilly, what's this? How do you begin this process?
All right. So to begin the process, let me just show you what I'm working on here. This is a little block of wood. It's a piece of plywood. You can see the layers of the plywood there, and it's especially made for woodcut. But I could use all sorts of bits and pieces of wood. I could go to the lumber yard and buy wood that I could use. This happens to be easy enough to cut, and it's quite regular. And I've transferred a picture that I made in ink onto the surface. I just glued down the piece of paper, and I rubbed some of the paper off to make it a little thinner. Now, let me show you my tools. These are Japanese woodcut tools, and the ones I use most are these two. This is the one that defines the shapes. I draw lines with it, and I draw shapes with it in the wood. This gets rid of extra wood. This is the one that removes what I don't want. These are for more detailed work. So you can see I have a bird here that I'm carving away at. And I'll show you this. Hold it in my fist like that. And the side towards what I'm cutting is flat. The other side is curved. Now I'm going to come around. I want to cut these bits of feather in a moment. Right now I'm going to come around the outside, and I'm going to change this shape slightly. And this is something I do regularly. As I go, I draw with the knife. Bringing this out a little further. Now, once I've done that cut, I come back and I make that into a V, like this. It becomes a V-shaped cut, like that. And once I've done that, I take my chisel and I remove the wood that I don't want. Now you'll notice I've got my hand holding the chisel, pressing down. My thumb is holding the chisel back. That way, I don't go into my own hand, and even worse, I don't take away the wood that I want to keep. And it becomes instinctive. You just hold back like that. Okay, so I would then continue to get rid of that wood. Now, I'll just show you quickly how I would make a line. I'm going to make the line inside the beak. Slightly complicated because it's got a curve at the end there. I'm going to carve one side of it.
So do you have to put a lot of pressure onto it as you cut? A
lot of pressure. It's a sharp, sharp knife, and I have to stop regularly to sharpen them, but it still takes a lot of power.
Mm.
So I've carved one side of the beak, and I haven't done the V yet. I've gone back to the other side. This means that it's more likely that I'll keep all of this line, because sometimes it breaks a bit. I cut down the other side. Now I go back over it.
And how long would it take you to do all the cutting on that block?
It varies enormously. It varies enormously. It depends on how much I have to get rid of, and how much detail there is. With the print called Poor Traffic, it's very complicated because of all the little figures. I even use a magnifier about that big that I look through, and that took a long time because there's so many figures. So it can take me a week or two if there are 5 colors, because that's 5.
A couple of questions now for you, Gilly, if that's okay. We've had a couple come in.
Yeah.
Fire away.
We've one from Sally Ann. Hi, Sally. And she's asking, she's currently looking at wabi sabi. I mean, forgive my pronunciation if that's wrong. Do you use any of these ideas in your work?
I need to know more. I don't know what that means.
We'll interrogate Sally a little bit more on this and see if we can get some more info. And
I'd love to know.
Yeah, Shirley's asking. Sorry, Shirley's asking: are the tools expensive, and what supplier would you recommend for them?
Okay, I would recommend Intaglio Printmaker, which is where I buy my tools, and they're fairly expensive. So I try never to go there.
I imagine you need quite a substantial set of plasters and first aid kit as well. If it's that
no, because I make sure that I break with my thumb, as you saw.
Yeah.
I tend not to go into what I don't want to do is go into my palm. The dangerous moment is when I've just sharpened one, particularly that one, and I'm moving about the studio because I don't usually sit in one place. I move about a lot. And I flick it past my fingers, and that's a good way to cut yourself.
You can get cut-proof, tight-fitting gloves, can't you? I've seen those for.
I hate wearing gloves,
but I imagine, yeah. But
yes, you can get chain mail gloves, which is what butchers use, chain mail. But it would be impossible to hold the tools.
Yeah, Sally's saying wabi sabi is a Japanese art form, so it could be one for us all to have a little.
I'm going to look it up. The moment I stop, I'm going to look it up and find out, because she obviously knows a good deal, probably more than I do, and I will look it up.
That's fantastic questions.
Yeah.
Should we go back? Shall we go to the next stage then?
Okay.
What would we do next?
So what we do next, once I've not finished that. So I will. What I want to do next is show you printing, but I'm going to use a block that I'm working on at the moment. Something that I've already done proofs for, and are
you going to show us the?
I'm going to show you first how I prepare my ink, which isn't exactly ink, and this is where it differs from European printmaking, because I don't use prepared inks. I use pigment. Now this is some ultramarine blue pigment, and it's powdered color. It's pure color. It's not powdered paint. It's the pure color that you then would make into paint or pastels or any sort of coloring medium you want to talk about, or for Japanese printmaking. And what I have to do is take this powder, make it finer, and add water to it. And I do that by grinding it on a piece of heavy piece of glass. I'll put some down here. I'll show you exactly what I do.
Such a beautiful color, isn't it?
It is a glorious color. And I use this, which is a glass muller, it's ground on the bottom, and the glass that I use to grind on is also ground. So they're both roughened. And I take a little bit of water, make a hole in the middle. I'm usually using slightly more. This is just to show you how I do it. Put some water in there, and I grind it. And I grind it in a figure of 8, like that, just so that I get all the powder in and cover it evenly. And then I have to add a little bit more water. I often add a bit of alcohol as well, because I store these once they're wet and ground. I store the pigments, and I have to keep them from going off, so the alcohol helps.
So how long would you have to grind it for?
The length of time,
colors.
Yeah, the length of time depends on the pigment itself. This one is very easy. It comes in quite small particles, and it might take me half an hour. The other extreme is a color called slate gray, which I worked on for about an hour, but it's made out of slate. And slate is a very hard material. So basically I'm grinding stone with that. It's not my favorite color, I have to say. But this works quite easy. So,
sorry, Gilly, we got a quick question from
yes.
Shirley. Where does the inspiration for your prints come from? And if this regards to the colours, where do you find your choice for these amazing colours? Because that blue is stunning, really is.
Well, there are there's specialized pigment people. This ultramarine blue, it used to be the most expensive color you could use, more expensive than gold. And that was because it was made out of lapis lazuli, which I have here, stone. But now it's synthetic. So I don't have to pay thousands of pounds for it. But there are specialist people who you can find online, and that they sell pigments. And I keep a sort of a palette of pigments ready so that I can choose from them and I can mix them to make other colors. So basically, you need a few colors that you can mix.
A very quick one from Sarah Howarth. How did you first get into this? What sort of made you get into this art form, and what's the difference really between the Japanese and the European?
Okay, I started making prints when I was a child. It was just something that happened at home, so I was sort of familiar with it. And then when I was about 18, I worked with a Japanese printmaker for about 3 months, and he taught me the cutting of the prints. He didn't teach me the printing. He printed in the European way, which is with a roller and ink. So it's ready-made ink, and so it's a different way of doing it. And I honestly don't remember when I thought I just need to find out how you make a proper Japanese print and print it that way. I like the quality. I like the way it looks in the end. It's a rather beautiful matte surface, which I like. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Lovely. So we've mixed the ink.
Yes.
The ink, the mixing of the ink is delicious, isn't it? Just want to get your hands in that blue. And you've shown us the cutting. So maybe you could show us how your own prints are made, the progression through your own prints.
Well, what I wanted to just go through the stages of a print, of the latest print, just to show you how what the different stages look like. Not all of them, but 3 of the stages, where you superimpose colors on top of each other. So if we can see image 4, please. Image 4 is the first block of this new print. Now, I have to say, these are proofs, so there'll be a lot of changes by the time I do the final printing. But I'm just finding out, which is very exciting. I'm finding out what it's going to look like. So 4 is just the first. It's a yellow background to the figures that I'm printing. And 5, if we can have 5, is the background plus what's called the line block, which defines the figures. So it just gives you more detail of what they look like. And then 6, I've added blue and green and red to it. So that would be the final print. But I'll tell you a secret, which is that it's not going to be like that. I'm going to go back to 5, less color. It's better that way. Okay, so that gives you some idea of the way they're superimposed. Now, what I want to do, I've prepared the paper. It's all ready. It's dampened for you. and ready to go. I dampened it last night for you. And this is the block. So this is the right-hand side in the end of the print I just showed you. I have to put it down in exactly the right place because I've already printed it once today. I've printed the yellow background, and I want the yellow forms to come out exactly where the lines are. We'll see whether that happens. Right, the next thing to do, this is the pigment for that one. It's a red earth. So this is actually earth from Italy, which is that color. And I use paste. So a little bit of rice paste. This is rice flour and water. I don't make my own. It comes in a tube like that. And I put a few dabs, maybe 2 dabs, onto the block. And then I take another brush and I put a few dabs of color. So this is the pigment I've ground earlier for this. And then I take this brush, again, a Japanese brush, and I brush in the pigment. Now, often I find that after I've done about, maybe 6 prints, I don't need to add any more pigment or any more paste because the wood is saturated. And one of the reasons why you can't actually use this technique if you're cutting lino, if you're making a lino cut, is that lino isn't absorbent. You need an absorbent surface. So the wood, it's like a sponge, and it's sponging up this combination. It's got water on it, and it's got paste and pigment. So that's ready to go. I would normally clean the sides like that, so I don't get too much printing off places I don't want. I should get some probably. Now I'm going to grab a piece of paper.
People will remember we've done some lino cuts with some of the groups, so some of them will be aware of that.
Yeah,
it's a similar system, isn't it?
It's similar, but
the inking is different, isn't it?
It's so much easier to print because you roll the ink on and you use dry paper.
There's a couple more questions coming.
Oh, good. Let's have them.
Yeah. Another one from Sally Ann. You've set her off, that's for sure. She's asking how long would the pigments last? You know, I suppose that's once you've mixed them. How long can you keep them before?
Once they've mixed. Okay, that's a very good question. Because I put alcohol with it and I use distilled water, they last a long time. They last for months and months. I mean, I haven't sort of timed it, but I think I could keep them for 6 months. Probably right. In that state, in an airtight jar. If they dry out, you can just grind them again.
Ah, right, okay.
Which is handy because there's nothing else. It's just the pigment and water and alcohol.
Yeah.
You have to be careful not to introduce anything like, you don't want to get paste in there.
Right.
So I take it out and put it in something separate for the printing.
And Dean's trying to figure out where your accent's from. I'm thinking Newcastle, maybe.
New England?
But not Newcastle.
No.
New England a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
yeah.
stuff.
About 45 years ago, something. I don't know. I lose track. I do lose track. Yeah.
And one from Sue. Do you ever collaborate with other artists? And if so, what have you come up with?
No, I never do. I never do, but except in workshops. Mm-hmm. So for teaching, I have, but not to make a thing. No, it's funny. I think some people do, but I'm very much a loner as far as work is concerned. Yeah,
it must be very relaxing to do it, and to quite cathartic in a way, I suppose, just to get lost in yourself doing that?
There are bits of it that are. Printing, actual real live printing, is extremely not relaxing. Nothing is less relaxing than that, because the paper has to be perfect, the ink has to be perfect, everything has to be perfect, or you can throw it away. So you lose quite a few, because they're just all sorts of things happen. When it goes right, it's fantastic, and when it doesn't, it's a little annoying. I suppose the most relaxing bit is the cutting. I like it a lot.
I think you should print. I think you should print it in case the ink dries.
I think I should, because it's drying. It's drying.
Yes.
Okay. It's got to be in exactly the right place. Otherwise, it won't come out right. Here we go.
Lots of very good questions have come in, Matt.
Yeah, we're looking at where do you source your pigments from? Gilly?
That's a very good question. There are a couple.
Answer it afterwards. Do the print. I'm worried for you. I'm worried that your ink will dry.
So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm making sure I've got register marks. So I've drawn where I put the first. When I put this paper down on the first block, it was in the same place, I hope, as this.
Can you put your screen down, then we can see what you're doing? Lovely.
There we go.
Thank you.
Now, this is my printing press. This is a Baron. It's a modern plastic Baron. The Japanese ones are far more beautiful, and they're made out of organic materials, but they don't last, and you have to know how to repair them, and I'm not very good at that. So I have this one, which works very, very well. And I put a piece of paper, I'm going to use that. I put a piece of paper on top of the block so that the Baron moves smoothly, and I go over it. Now, can you see that the figure is coming through there? Right there, you can see him. And over here, so it's coming through the back of the paper that I'm printing. It's also coming through this other piece of paper. And one of the things that can happen is that you forget at this point one of the figures, and you forget to print it because it's all blind. I can't tell where I am quite, except when they come up. That I know I have two more. As you go along, of course, you do remember, because
you've done paper over to protect the sheet underneath. Yeah,
it protects that sheet. Okay, now I can just give it a little. So it's come right through the back, which is what it shows me that this paper is in perfect condition. I pick it up. I show you can you see that now?
If you put your screen up just slightly, that's lovely.
Slightly. All right. Now I can see where I need to clean it off a bit more. You can see there, a little bit there. But otherwise, it's what I want. So the line has come out on top of the yellow ghosts. And there you have, not the finished print, because then I would go on to do the other colors on top of that.
And you said it was 6 blocks, did you, for that print?
6, yeah. I counted as 12 because there are 2 blocks for each printing. So I'm only doing one. I'm doing half. This was half of the print. But
so how long would it take you to come up with a collection of prints?
To come up, let's say 10. If I thought I was going to do an edition of 10, I would probably plan to print 15, because you're going to lose 5. You lose the first, at least the first 2 anyway, because the blocks are just becoming ready. And so they tend to be faint and things like that. So it would take me from, I suppose, take me 8 hours to do it.
Yeah.
And you don't stop. So you get hungry by the end.
Sadly, talking of time, we're pretty much just about out of it, unfortunately. So we're going to have to wrap up. So.
Are there any more questions, Matt?
Any questions?
There's a couple quick ones. Bravo 22 did a lino cut printing workshop. Could you explain the main differences between them? And then the last one after that is, can you mix pigments of colour together to blend them?
Yes, yes, you can. And I do that. Either I do it right on the block or I do it beforehand. Mm-hmm. But yes, I do it. Yeah. They mix very well.
Great stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was wonderful, actually. It's very lovely to watch. I'm sure it's probably not therapeutic to do, but it's very therapeutic to watch the process. It's lovely to see someone working in their studio, you know, with absolute sort of mastery of their techniques. So it's really lovely. Thank you so much, Gilly, for
it was a pleasure.
It
really was a pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you from me as well. Lovely to see, well, not to see you, but to be here. Lovely to be here again. And I'm going to hand you back to Mac. Thank you, Matt. Not Mac, Matt. We were talking about people not being able to pronounce his name, and now I can't. I'll hand you back to Matt. Goodbye.
Cheers, Al. Thanks very much, and a massive thank you also to Gilly. I'm sure you'll agree that was fascinating to watch. I mean, I'm not by any means an artist, but I find watching artists just mesmerizing, and that was brilliant. I'll just quickly go over a couple of things that we've got coming up. Monday the 8th at 11 a.m. we've got Have a Brew with Bravo 22. We've got Come for a Chat and meet new and current members. So remember, it's Bravo 22 company. We're a company of friends, you know, not just a company of strangers. So let's all get together for that one. Tuesday the 9th at 11 a.m. we've got a session on writing monologues on our YouTube channel with Evan Placey and the lovely Rachel Yarrington. And if any of you know her, she was in Reparation Island, which was a great little play we did. On Wednesday the 10th, we've got 2 workshops, limited spaces available for Joe Bell's poetry workshop at 11 a.m. and Al Johnson, we've heard that name before somewhere, designing with colour workshop at 3 p.m. And finally, on Thursday the 11th at 10 a.m, the next in our Conversation With series on YouTube, Glenn Baxter, an English draftsman, an artist well known for his absurdist drawings, and that again with Al Johnson and Clement Boland. So a massive round of applause for Gilly and for Al, and a huge thank you from all of us to Alice Palmer and Sue Brody for all the hard work. I nearly swore then, for all the hard work that they're doing, keeping us all occupied while we're on this lockdown. And it's been an absolute pleasure for me to present. So thank you very much, and see you all again soon. Cheers now. Bye.
Bye.